Hey everybody, it's Jackie Bruno, Miss Massachusetts USA 2008. You're listening to Life After the Crown with Tim Tialdo.
Hey everybody, my name is Tim Tialdo and welcome to Season 2 of the Life After the Crown podcast. Now, if you haven't had a chance to listen to any of the previous episodes, I do encourage you to go back and listen because there are many valuable interviews that you will definitely gain some wisdom from. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, welcome and thanks for checking us out. Each episode of Life After the Crown, I interview former pageant contestants, title holders, and women of influence who share advice and stories on how to help you succeed in the world of pageants, but more importantly, how you can flourish in the professional world once your pageant journey comes to an end. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to download this podcast. I do value your time, and I'm glad you're here listening. So let's get started. My guest today was Miss Massachusetts USA 2008, and she also placed top 10 at Miss USA that year. She was also third runner-up at Miss Teen USA in 2003. She is currently the entertainment and lifestyle reporter for NBC 10 Boston and NECN. She has reported live from the Golden Globes red carpet, has interviewed countless celebrities including Mark Wahlberg, Jennifer Lopez, and Kelly Clarkson, to name a few. She also produces segments for her signature series Uniquely Boston, which features the people and places that make Boston special. Prior to this role, Jackie anchored and covered general assignment news for NECN and WWLP in Springfield, Massachusetts. She was one of the first reporters to tweet from the Boston Marathon bombing and delivered eyewitness reports in the minutes, hours, and days that followed. When it comes to pageants, she still enjoys helping girls prepare for competitions. She has also judged state and local pageants for both the Miss USA and Miss America systems. She is a graduate of Boston University and a devoted mother to her two boys, Jack and James. Jackie Bruno, welcome to Life After the Crown. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's
I'm so
exciting.
excited. I love this podcast.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate you listening and reaching out to me. And, we're in the same business, and so it's always fun to see somebody who has gone on from pageants into the broadcasting world. Now, I got to be honest, I was watching YouTube this morning, and I was looking at your Miss Teen USA Top 5 interview. And It was Mario Lopez and Brooke Burns, and they were asking you your top 5 questions. And one of the questions was, I believe it was, whose job would you like to replace, or who would you like to replace in their field of work? And your answer was Katie Couric. Now that you look back, okay, so we're 15 years in the future now, are you living the dream that you hoped you would live?
I think I am. That clip actually made it onto the Today Show the next morning.
Oh,
and
good.
Katie Couric said that she wasn't going to allow me on the plaza because she didn't want me to take her job. And Ann Carter's like, I think she's just trying to be, she really likes you. So it's kind of a funny interaction there. But, now I work for NBC. So, I'm in the family, and we're an NBC O&O station. So I'm so proud to be in the NBC Universal family. And I think so. I think that once you have children, you kind of realize that I'm in my hometown. I actually live in the hometown I grew up in. We bought a house down the street from my parents and grandparents. And if you told me when I was like 13, 14, or even, the 17, 18, when I was at Miss Teen USA, that I'd be living in, I'm not going to the town, but in the town that I grew up in, I would have thought that was a huge failure. But now I'm so thankful that, you know how this business is. It could have taken me anywhere, and I get to work in the place that I grew up in. So many people chase that dream, and I get to do it now. And I actually get to do the kind of work that I had one day hoped to do on like the Today Show or Access Hollywood. I'm actually interviewing celebrities and covering incredible features. So I get to do the work that I wanted to do, and I get to do it close to home, which really is the perfect blend of everything I think I always wanted, but maybe didn't realize I wanted.
Well, gosh, and for those listening, I don't know how many people know how incredibly rare that is. I worked up through the markets. I started in I actually started at Access Hollywood in the research department, and then my on-air career went to Clarksburg, West Virginia, then to Springfield, Missouri, then to St. Louis. I grew up in St. Louis, so it took me 3 markets to work my way back there, but you've been in your home state the entire time. I don't hardly ever see that happen.
Yeah, because I was applying all over the country, and it was during 2008, so the recession was happening and nobody was hiring. And I have been going to my hometown post office to mail out DVDs because that's how old I am. That's how we used to do it. And they say, where are you applying to today, Jackie? I'm like, Arkansas, Alabama, and Alaska. I'm don't really want to go to those places. No offense to those states. I love them all and would love to visit them, but that's really far away from my family. I'm like, but you know what? That's probably where I'll get my next job. And as I was leaving, I got a call from a news director from Springfield, Massachusetts, who said, what are you doing right now? And I said, well, I'm actually mailing out DVDs for jobs. And he goes, well, stop. I want you to come in for an interview. And that's how my job started, out in Springfield, Mass for 3 years. And then I got the job here at NECN, which has now turned into our NBC affiliate because we've taken over the affiliation for Boston. So now for the past 3 years, I've been working for NBC 10 Boston and NECN.
What market is Boston now? It used to be in the top 5. Is it still top 10?
Yeah, it's in the top 10. I want to say it bounces between like 7 and 8.
Okay, yeah.
But
Still, it's a huge market.
Seriously here.
Oh, I imagine.
We take everything seriously here,
Oh, my gosh. Pats and Red Sox.
I know. I won't gloat.
You got the Celtics, so you can't always brag about that one, but the other two always.
And the Patriots, come on. I mean, the Red Sox this year, but, we were last year's World Series champion. But again, I digress. And we've had two Miss USAs.
Yes, you have. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So I want to go back to 2003. So you're Miss Massachusetts Teen USA. You get top 5 at Miss Teen USA. Your big sis, Susie Castillo, goes on to win Miss USA. I mean, what a powerhouse duo from Massachusetts that year.
Yeah, my director has called it the Superstar Year. She actually gave us these Superstar keychains I still have on my keychain to kind of remind me of that year. It was such a special experience. To give you an idea of my background, I was such a nerd, I couldn't even get a date to prom. And then I competed in my first pageant after years of modeling, but modeling meant that I was so skinny that people said you should model. I wasn't beautiful. I just kind of looked awkward. And that was good at the time for modeling. And so when I entered my first pageant, I got first runner-up out of 130 girls, which coming from a small town, that was most first runner-ups are totally angry. I was thrilled. And then someone said, you should come back. And I was like, I can come back? So I did. And at that point, I put a lot of pressure on myself to win because I couldn't, try really hard and then not do as well as I did the year before or do the same. So the only option was winning. So it was my freshman year at Boston University. I was, 17, I won state, had turned 18 by the time I got to nationals. So I was an older teen and I pretty much looked the same as, maybe not as I do now, because as my son told me this morning, my face has wrinkles. But I looked pretty old. So I had to kind of make myself look teeny that whole year. And Susie was such an incredible big sister because she had already been to Teen USA. So she had such great advice for me. We had done many appearances together before we went to, I think her national pageant came first. So I went down there and met a bunch of the girls from Teen. Susie won Miss USA. I'll never forget watching her then boyfriend, now husband's face. As her entire life just totally changed. And we were so proud of her. And we knew that she was going to do great. And then when she won, it was pretty epic to be there in San Antonio having that experience. And then, then going into Teen USA where, my big sister is Miss USA and I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself to do well. And thankfully it all worked out. I got third runner up. I kind of knew that year they were saying that they wanted a teen that looked like a teen today, tomorrow, and in 10 years. And I was like, I barely look like a teen right now. Uh-oh. So I went in with this big ball gown and tried to be as teeny as possible. But I think third runner up, considering the fact that I looked like I was 25, was A-okay.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this morning. You did. You looked like 24, 25-year-old. I mean, I was like, wow, she at teen. And not only that, you were so well-spoken. I was like, she should probably just go ahead and compete in USA. Screw the teen. Just go for it, When I did compete at Miss USA, I almost felt like I competed at teen better because I was so enthusiastic. I didn't really know what was coming at me. And when I was totally determined and really prepared, I'd already gotten the main goal, which was winning Miss Mass Teen. By the time I got to Miss USA, I wanted so badly to win Miss USA, I think it worked against me. And that's where I got the top 10. And I still kind of bothered by the fact that I didn't make top 5. But you know what? I always think about it like that Garth Brooks song, Unanswered Prayers. And, who knows what life would have been like. And let's also face it, no one was beating Crystal Stewart. Before that pageant, I went up to her, and I had been a big pageant fan for quite some time, so I'd followed her competing at Miss Texas for years. And I just thought, you know what? I don't want to get beaten by someone who just kind of entered the pageant and, oh, boy, oh, my God, I won. And then you enter your national pageant. Oh, my God, I won. I wanted to be beaten by someone who cared and tried, and this was going to mean the world to them because that's kind of how I felt about it. And so I went up to her before. I said, Crystal,
I think you know how much I want to win this pageant, and I know how much you want to win this pageant. So if it cannot be me, I hope it is you. And she ended up winning. So I was so thrilled to see her win. So even though I was like, licking my wounds back there, when she won, I was thrilled. So that was totally genuine.
Going back to your Teen USA title, you were part of the years in which Teen USA was still nationally broadcast on NBC. And I know
the
that,
golden age.
Yeah, exactly. For a lot of the girls today, they don't know what that feels like. Maybe explain, because I know you were at Susie's crowning and you obviously experienced, Miss USA nationally on television. What was it like to compete in teen when you had big hosts like Mario Lopez and Brooke Burns as your hosts?
Well, it was so thrilling. I was a huge Mario Lopez fan, had a huge crush on AC Slater, so I went in with an Saved by the Bell T-shirt and made him sign it. We actually have a picture of us wearing matching Red Sox jerseys because he had just run the Boston Marathon and had one of apparently was like friends with Nomar Garcia-Parra. And so when I said I went to Boston University, he's like, oh, I just ran this. And it came up that he had this shirt. I said, well, I have mine. Do you want to wear matching shirts tomorrow? And so we do. We have a picture of that. And I actually just interviewed him when I went out to Access Hollywood to do a promotional shoot for that. And he was pretty funny. I said, Mario, we have history. And of course he didn't remember me. Like he had fear in his eyes. Like, what kind of history are you talking about?
Well, for him, I could see where he's nervous.
Right. So, and then I said, well, actually, you just hosted Miss Teen USA 2003 and showed him the pictures. He remembered it. It was a great moment. But it was so thrilling. Like I said, I had come from this background where I was kind of a nerd in my own high school. And apparently there was a group of girls who got together to make fun of me as I was going to be competing in this national pageant, thinking I wouldn't do well. And then I, make the top 15, make the top 10. Now I'm in the top 5. They must have, I don't know what they were talking about at that party because they must have been really quieted. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it. They must have been really quieted at that party because I did pretty well. And it was so exciting for everybody that I knew that was, watching and rooting for me and for my family to be there. It was such an incredible experience that I really cherish to this day. My time in pageants, I can't say enough about them, and probably why I'm still so involved. I love judging. I love helping girls as they're competing, and I just do it free on the side because I'm so busy. I don't have a ton of time to be a real coach, but I just love pageants. Can't say enough about them.
Side note, does Mario Lopez age? I mean, the guy has not aged in 30 years.
I did ask him about that. I asked him if he made a pact with the devil or what is his skincare regime. I think he's got some really good genes.
He must.
It's
literally,
impressive.
the guy looks the same today as he did back when he did your pageant.
Yeah, I know. It is impressive. I unfortunately do not have, he didn't recognize me, but I'm sure he's met a lot of girls over his years in pageantry and whatnot, so I don't take offense to him not remembering. He did remember when I showed him the pictures.
So you finished top 5 at Teen USA. As you mentioned, you competed in Miss USA in 2008 against Crystal Stewart. One of those gaps that I think a lot of people think about when they're graduating from Teen USA into, do I want to continue doing pageants? Is this something where, do I want to graduate and do the Miss side, or should I go on and do other things in my life? For you, finishing top 5 at Teen USA, I mean, that's a pretty high finish, and, you could be very accomplished and say, I'm done. What made you want to continue to compete?
Everything in my spirit. No way was I going to be done. I just got a taste of my whole world had been opened up. I mean, I got to go to events in Boston and I could mingle the crowd and everybody wanted to talk to me because I had a crown on. So it taught me a great way to network. I got my agent, actually, I still have to this day, through the Miss Teen USA pageant. It was such a world. It opened my eyes to a whole new world, and I wanted more of it. So here I was going back into my college, and I was getting internships, and I was trying to figure out how I could build upon everything. But I was still really, going back to the pageant every year and seeing girls get crowned, seeing girls go to Miss USA. That was a real big goal for me. I had grown up watching these pageants, never thinking I would have ever entered one. Because like I said, I was gawky. I was really tall and, definitely didn't look like the part for a long time. So now that I had some success and thought, wow, I think I can go back and maybe do well again, it was a real dream. I competed my senior year of college just after I graduated, and I ended up getting second runner-up at Massachusetts. And so that kind of messed things up because I thought, I'll just go back and win. That's that delusion you get when you apparently do well at teen. And it was a great learning lesson because, I had to go back, figure out what more I could do to kind of come back and really, make it an obvious win. and I changed my dress. I worked a little bit more on myself, and I think I actually was much better when I came back the second time around, and then obviously won in 2008. So it's a really great lesson. But you have to kind of look a little bit more deep into yourself sometimes. It's not you're not just going to go to a pageant and win, no matter who you are and what your success was in the past. Teen is such a different beast than Miss, and what's going to succeed in teen doesn't always succeed at Miss. So I had to make sure that I was really adopting maybe my story. Story, everybody thinks it's a new thing, but it was a thing back then, and we always had these incredible interviews. So I feel like I was a stronger contender when I went to Miss USA than I would have been maybe the year before. Part of me actually wishes I waited a little longer. Had I had time in TV, I would have been, a little bit more comfortable in front of the cameras, a little less worried about what everybody, wanted me to be, and had been a little bit more of myself. I was truly myself at Team USA. I felt like at Miss USA I was trying to be a former Miss USA. And I realize now that every year the girl is different because they look for authenticity.
Well, you've been in the media, during a very interesting evolution of pageantry over the last 15 years. As you look at it from when you competed in 2003 and 2008 to now, do you like what you're seeing? I mean, what do you think of the pageant world today?
I'm liking what I'm seeing a little bit more from IMG lately. A few years ago, I wasn't really loving what I was seeing just because I felt like they were placing story above what we were actually being graded on in the pageant world. And I felt like we needed to make sure that, we weren't losing our identity. Miss America's been losing their identity lately, and I don't want to bash them too harshly because they will be on TV this year. And I am excited about that. There's a lot of things I love about, that organization too. But I think that, one thing I love about pageants is that for a long time we've had diversity, we've had story, we've had intelligent women throughout this entire time. So that hasn't changed. So the fact that we feel like we need to rebroadcast that out to people or make changes when changes weren't necessarily needed bothers me a little bit. Like right now we're seeing, I think that, beauty is back and I'm really excited about that. And I think that we're paying more attention to stories, which is great because, like I said, girls always had them. So I feel like we're writing itself. IMG kind of had to find their way, and I'm hoping that we're, making the way towards a really Miss Universe. I feel like is on point now. I hope Miss USA follows in the same reign.
Yeah, we'll certainly find out. Now, you still judge, I mentioned earlier, you judge both USA and America's system. Do you have a certain criteria that you look for? I know that each state director kind of, likes to determine the criteria they ask you to look for when crowning their winners. But I mean, as just a former pageant contestant, competitor, winner, when you go into a pageant, what are you looking for? Probably as your top, 3 attributes. Yeah,
I think I love prepared. I like someone that looks like they tried. A little bit. I mean, I love authenticity, and I'm looking for that too. But authenticity without preparation might be 1 year away from winning, right? Like that girl just needs to come back and polish a few more things, and then she's a perfect contender. So I really like someone who looks like they know what they're getting into. I could send them to Miss USA tomorrow, and they will be A-okay. I want someone who can speak and interview. That is really important to me, just because we're going to send them all throughout Boston, and I don't want my, friends and family and people that I work with to think that Miss Massachusetts USA or whatever state we're judging can't speak. That's really important as well. I think beauty, facial beauty is paramount for me when it comes to a pageant. I want to see a beautiful girl. And I think that, swimsuit is important. The fact that physical fitness is something that's really important. And I really think that if you've put in the preparation in swimsuit, I know you're going to follow through with everything else because that's the hardest thing.
I love it. And I think that's great. And, hopefully maybe I'll get to work with you as a judge.
I'm a traditionalist when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know there's a kind of a push as to what beauty is today. And there's certainly, narratives out there of, it's this or it's this. And it's like, it's really in the eye of the beholder. Some people like that very classic beauty.
I don't think I have a clear concept of what beauty is. I think that beauty comes almost in every different shape, size, and when I'm saying swimsuit needs to be a factor, I'm not saying that like all bodies would be considered. They just have to be in shape for whatever their body type is, right? Yeah. Or that beauty has to be. I'm certainly not just looking for blonde, blue-eyed, and whatever. I'm looking for whoever is beautiful in their own way, and I think that is a really large permutation of different types of people. And I'm excited, and I'm really excited that more people are entering of all different kinds. But I also think that had been happening for a long time, since going back into the 1980s. So it's not something new. And I get a little frustrated when people think that's a new thing that they're trying to push when it's something that's been happening for a long time. Pageants have been doing a great job for a long time, and people who think that they weren't haven't been watching.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're seeing in the numbers. I mean, you watch ratings. I mean, you see the difference between the years that you were on and the years now. I mean, I know there's social media involved in that, but I think at the core of it, it is frustrating.
Well,
Let's just
put it really
that way.
simple. I mean, Miss USA has always been 33 to 3% for the most part, beauty, interview, and swimsuit. You could play along. My only critique about Miss America is that it's really hard to play along because you think you're watching a beauty pageant, and then within one fell swoop, most of the beauties get let go. And then you're like, okay, I don't understand how that happened, but let's try to figure this out now. And then you have like talent and all this other stuff coming up. And so much of the score is behind closed doors, and that interview chunk is so large. I would love, if the interview is going to be that large, I would love to see them stream those interviews or have them on so we can see them, because then I can play along as a viewer. I think that we really have to think about this in a reality TV kind of world, and people want to play along. I think Miss USA has been easy to play along with for a long time. I would love to see that happen with both pageants.
Now, Miss America is going to be kind of in your backyard this year. Are you going to be covering it?
It is. It's going to be in Connecticut. So it's on the same day as Miss Universe. So if they want me to cover it, I will be there. If they don't want me to cover it, I will be having a Miss Universe. But yeah, I'm really excited. Our Miss Mass America this year used to be my son's babysitter, so I'm pumped for her, Lindsay Littlefield. Woo! And then my friend Darcy Fisher's daughter is Miss Vermont America, so I'm so excited. I'll be watching it too. I'll be going back and forth. I might have to DVR Miss Universe, actually. We'll see what goes on. I'm excited. I'm hoping to cover these two local queens for our station as we prepare for Miss America, and I'm excited to see what happens in Miss Universe, too, because we got some beauties. Have you seen Miss Ireland? I'm pretty obsessed.
Yeah, there's some very good ones.
For Miss USA.
You're talking about Texas USA.
Yes, she's one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, she's very, very pretty.
So I'm really excited. I hope she can speak.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see, honestly, Universe move to another date. I don't think they're worried about Miss America, and I think they'd rather have their own night, so don't be surprised if you see that change.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that, because we pageant fans, I mean, we got the big three. We got to watch them.
Well, and I think that's what Miss America's trying to do, is say, hey, let's see who's more popular. Let's just go head-to-head and see what happens.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to put those two to the test. Miss Universe has international appeal.
Yeah, and it's got from what I understand, and talking to some of the broadcast officials, worldwide, 100 million viewers. That's a lot. That's a lot of viewers. So
exactly.
Be a tough one to compete with.
Exactly. So that's exciting. Both are great, and I'm excited to see Miss America back on a network. Oh, that's wonderful. Keeping all of our pageants on network television is great. Exactly.
So let's talk about your career. You've graduated from pageantry into broadcasting. That's a very common transition. A lot of people who get into pageants do want to go into broadcasting. Do you feel like it prepared you well for the career that you have now done for the last 10, 15 years?
Absolutely. I think that the interview portion, learning how to answer an interview question makes you a really good interviewer, because you know how to ask questions too. I think that you definitely learn how to do your makeup. You learn how to present yourself, which in the early days of TV news, you'll see a lot of people who don't know how to do that. I can't tell you how many weddings I've been to where grown women have to go to the hairdresser to get their hair and makeup done before they go to an event. I could do my hair and makeup in a car and be ready in 5 minutes. These are skills for everyday life. So because of pageants, I feel like I can throw myself into almost any situation. I can work a room. Throw me into a room now as a reporter that I'm hosting something and I have to just, mingle. That could be really scary, just going up and introducing yourself to people. It's really easy after a year of being Miss Massachusetts. You're really used to it. So it's become easy. So networking is easier, answering questions, asking questions, preparing myself for a broadcast. So I'm covering a blizzard and my makeup still has to look good. I got this. So I think that, it absolutely helps. I highly recommend it for anyone wanting to go into any kind of public job like broadcast journalism or really any job. It's going to prepare you.
Well, I've had a lot of hosts and news anchors on this podcast, and all from the pageant world, and we've talked at length about what they were looking to get into in terms of career. And what I've found, for the most part, there are some that get into it and really honestly do want to do news and journalism. But I would say 80% of them want to do news as a way to get to what you're doing, lifestyle, entertainment type stuff that's more, I guess, fun to do on a daily basis and positive rather than the, if it bleeds, it leads mentality of news these days.
Yes, I think that this is definitely the fun zone. I'm happy to be in it. And I think I worked hard to get here, too. A lot of girls want to go into it right away. People are saying, like, how do I do what you're doing? I'm like, I'm not quite sure how I landed in it, but getting on The Bachelor might help you. Followers are really popular right now. So, there's no real way to get into it because reality TV has changed the game. I got into it because I, paid my dues, worked hard. My advice for anyone wanting to get into news in general would be don't be so specific about which section of news you want to get into. Just do a really good job of becoming a good writer, becoming a good listener. Speed, if you can write a package fast, that's going to get you way further than just your looks. I've been able to kind of hone my skills throughout many years. It's been over 10 years in the business, and I think that I've gotten to where I am because I've always said yes. I've been a solution to problems. I used to anchor on the weekends and report general assignment news, and then I got demoted and they didn't want me to anchor anymore because we had new management coming in. And then, that was really upsetting. So how do I handle that? Well, I could pout and I could be upset about it. Or I could say, well, I'm still here and I'm willing to show you I can still do a good job. And, let me at whatever you need and I'll come in early. I'll stay late. I'll come in on the weekends. I was a solution to problems. And because of that, they were like, oh, Jackie, she's a go-to kind of person. She's fun. Let's give her the entertainment job. So that's how I got that. So it was really, because of how I handled the bad situation, turned into my dream situation. So I always tell people, make sure that you're being a solution to problems, that you're having a positive attitude. Even when the going seems tough, those who face it with a positive attitude are going to come out on top more often than not.
Now, you produce what you call your signature series, Uniquely Boston. Was this something that you pitched to your news staff, or was it something they came to you with?
Yeah, well, originally we were doing something called The Scene, which is kind of, lifestyle stuff, new hot restaurants in Boston. Still a lot of feature stories were in there as well, and I didn't pick out that name. So I still had a lot of love for the really heartwarming feature stories, but they didn't always fit into what we were calling The Scene. So we decided to call it Uniquely Boston, which would really, allow us to cover anything from the greater Boston area that was super unique to the area, whether it's the new hot restaurant or someone who is so exceptional and deserves spotlight and maybe doesn't always get it, or I just did a story on this rapper from Roxbury who is so fascinating, and the things she's rapping about are so interesting. I wanted all my viewers to know about her. So those are the kind of stories that we are covering for Uniquely Boston, which I'm so proud of. I just won an Emmy last year, which is pretty exciting.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you. Checking a lot of things off the bucket list. So that's fun.
Well, you had mentioned earlier that a lot of people ask you, how do I get to do what you do? And I hear a lot of that same stuff, when people are asking about either guests on the podcast or even what I do for a living. And I think, the one thing that I notice that I would love for you to explain from your standpoint is a lot of these girls, they want to come out of that pageant world and out of college and just do it right away. And it's really, as you know, very difficult to make that happen. So talk about I guess we'll just call it the paying your dues road.
Yeah, I think let's look at our favorite people. Like, do we love watching Savannah and Hoda on the Today Show? Well, they're Savannah's probably late 40s, Hoda's in her 50s. They've been working a long time before they got those dream jobs. So I just think it's kind of funny when girls come right out of college wanting to just be the it girl. Now, there are those exceptions that it just happens for some people. They're in the right place, the right time.
Susie Castillo's a good example of that.
Exactly. And people who have these internships, we've seen people who have interned at these national places, and then they're in the right place when they need Sarah Haynes on the Today Show. She was working behind the scenes, and they needed someone young and fun who could do social media. Right place, right time, immediately in the national spotlight. But here's the thing that you don't realize. You don't want to be so green that you don't know how to do the job, even if you're in the right place, right time, and then you're bad at it. And then it's hard to ever get back there again because you didn't have enough repetitions in the small market. I think about my time out in Springfield, Massachusetts. Boy, was I not great at my job. A lot of the time I had a lot of work ethic, and there were times when you almost have to make every mistake to learn how to do it right, and you don't always want to do that in the big leagues. So it's nice to go to a small market and be able to learn the craft and learn it in a way where if you make mistakes, you're not going to get fired. So that by the time I got to Boston, I'm sure I've still made my fair share of mistakes, but I like to think that I've created a reputation for being a journalist that you can trust, someone who is going to bring you the story in a unique way, maybe with a little extra personality. And it's hard to work on that personality part of it if you don't have your basics down. So my advice is, if you know and you haven't even chose your college yet, let's say you're a teen competing in the pageants and you want to do what we're doing, go find a school that's excellent for broadcast journalism. Get that college degree and get it from a place that is good at teaching journalism, because you need to learn the ethics. You need to learn how to write. You need to learn now how to do social media in a really responsible and still fun way. You need to be able to learn how to do podcasts. There's so many things that you probably should learn how to do before you do them, because that way when you get out of there, you're good at them. This business is really unforgiving, so you don't want to make, such blatant mistakes in a big league. So do that in a smaller place first, work your way up. And then, like I said before, I have kids now, and so I have a lot of priorities outside of work. But when you're young and you don't have too much to do, you might be able to see your friends, all around on Instagram having so much fun. But I can tell you, my 3 years in Springfield, I didn't make that much money, and I wasn't able to have that much fun. It still made me some fun, but a lot of my time was spent working. So I spent a lot of my 20s toiling on this job, working really hard. And now, when I got my Emmy last year, it was so refreshing to see all my colleagues say, wow, this is really deserved. You've worked so hard for so many years. So what I'm building now, I feel like has a really solid foundation rather than being a quick flavor of the month. So I'm really proud of that. Doesn't mean it's the only way to do it, but it's a real surefire way, I think, to do it. And if you can kind of plan to start building the layers onto that career if you can, and start with going to the right school for the right program, and then getting internships. I was an intern here at NECN when I was in college. So when I applied for the job after 3 years of Springfield, they were like, oh yeah, we love Jackie, bring her on. So making those connections, and actually my Miss Massachusetts USA 2001, Latoya Edwards, who was Latoya Foster at the time, was an anchor here. So pageants give you great networking skills. Hold on to those. So when I said, hey, Latoya, I'm interviewing at NECN, she's like, oh, I got this. I'm going to go put in some good words for you. So, be nice to everybody from the pageant time on. It is a small market all over the place, and you're probably meeting people, whether you want to go into journalism or some other industry, you're probably meeting people all the time. Never be a diva. Always be willing to, help out, volunteer, and have a positive attitude. And I feel like whatever you go into, you'll probably succeed. That's
some awesome advice. And I've actually got a story to parallel what you were talking about, that some girls want to come out of college and kind of be the it girl. I had a previous guest on the podcast is the host of The List. Do you know The List, the nationally syndicated lifestyle show? Christina Guerrero.
Yes.
So Christina Guerrero lived in L.A., was working at, I want to say KTLA. I think she was one of the different local, one of the big stations there in L.A. She was working behind the scenes in the production department, and somehow got involved with Access Hollywood, and they put her on super young. Like, I think she was 23 or 24, and she very quickly kind of became the green girl that everybody knew. She's just not quite ready. And so her agent is Ken Linder. And Ken Linder said,
my
hey,
agent.
Yeah, okay, so you know Ken. Ken's a legend, Nancy O'Dell's former agent. He said, I'm going to get you a job in San Antonio with a show called Great Day San Antonio. We're going to send you there for 3 or 4 years and really get you polished. And then you can come back out here, and I'll make sure that, you're in with the right producers, and we'll get you back out there. And that's exactly what happened. She went to Great Day San Antonio, went back out, worked for The Insider for Entertainment Tonight, and then now is doing The List out of Phoenix. So she's, worked her way up in a very unique way, but it was a great example of she wasn't quite ready for the big leagues, even though she wanted to be there. Exactly.
And that's exactly what they told me. They said I needed to get polished. I needed to get those reps, learn how to cover every kind of news, because even though entertainment news sounds like it's trivial, a lot of it goes back to general news basics, and ethical news. Having news ethics, it doesn't matter what you're covering. That is a bedrock that I find now helps me with, should I tweet this? Should I make this joke? Absolutely not. Like, social ethics is so important. And if you don't learn that, you can really, put your foot in your mouth or mess up somewhere along the way if you don't have that bedrock of information. And a lot of it is just at that. You just got to keep doing the job every day. So what does Malcolm Gladwell say? You have to do something 10,000 times before you get good at it. So.
Well, look, for those listening, if you want to learn ethics, don't watch cable news. just cut it all out, because you're not going to learn any ethics from anything that they're doing. I do want to quickly talk about your news. I think that we at the local level are really trying to keep it unbiased. I'm also really happy I don't cover a ton of politics, but I really think that my coworkers are doing a great job of that. And I think that,
I think we've gotten to a point where obviously there are certain stations at the cable level that are one way or another. So there's that.
Well, hey, you covered a very significant event that happened in the past few years in news, and that was, of course, the Boston Marathon bombing. You were one of the first people on the scene. I think a lot of people would just kind of love to hear. Tell us about the experience. I mean, what happened? Where were you? What went on?
Yeah, I was supposed to be covering a really great feature that I had found, and it was supposed to be an exclusive story, and it was about this couple that was getting married after running the marathon. So I had interviewed them before the marathon. They were elite runners, and they were going to be wearing the groom in a tuxedo made out of Under Armour material, and the bride's dress is going to be made out of Under Armour material white, using the Chicago Marathon medal as like a sash, right? So what a quirky, fun, and beautiful story. So we were there at the finish line waiting for them to come through. The groom was a really fast runner, and in the men's, so he came through first. The bride came through right after. So we were really lucky that they were elite runners and they weren't taking too long, because then we could have been there during a much worse situation. But we were moving our car out of this parking garage, which, if people know Boylston Street, right by the Lord and Taylor, which I don't know if anybody knows that. So it's another, right by where the second bombing happened. And so we were coming out and we heard this loud boom, and I kind of made this joke like, oh my God, we don't need breaking news right now. Because I thought it was actually one of those, sometimes in a parking garage, it kind of makes those like booming sounds. Mm-hmm. And it sounded that far away where it was kind of like, but that was the first bomb. And then as we were paying for our parking, as soon as they punched our ticket and gave it back to us, the second bomb went off. And we looked to our left after emerging from this parking garage, and we found smoke. And so my photographer put the car in park actually right there and ran out, grabbed his camera, ran out. I just followed him, and I stopped for a split second. When you go back to the area, it feels like it all happened in slow motion. There's a lot, but there was actually no room. I just must have walked a few steps, and then I texted my family, I'm okay. And then I continued on, and what I saw was pretty much this horrific scene of carnage. And I took that first photo, and then I almost couldn't see. Looking across the street on Boylston Street right now, when you look across, I can make out almost anything from across the street. For some reason, I was struggling to see what I was witnessing across the street, which was somebody who had unfortunately lost a leg, and there was a bunch of people kind of in a situation right where the bomb had gone off. It was awful. But it's funny how your brain plays tricks on you. So I took that photo. I immediately looked at it. Again, media ethics. My first thought was, can I see anyone's face in this photo? And I couldn't. Their faces were all either down, or you couldn't make out who was in the photo. But it was a graphic photo. So I made a news call right now. In that moment, I tweeted it out and explained that there had been an explosion. That tweet went super viral. Again, back to news ethics. Had I been able to see a face in that picture, I would not have tweeted it out, because I would not want people to know that their family member was injured in that way. I would have waited and talked to my managers about it. But immediacy is important in news too. So again, like, had I not had that bedrock of information from school and from years of doing this job, that could have been maybe I wouldn't have known what to do. So I got that out. And then we had to move our car. We went back, and I ended up covering it all day long. And it was really crazy, because so often in news, you're covering something and you're explaining what other people saw. I was using the word I, which felt like a bad thing to do in news at the time, but I didn't know any other way to explain what I had seen. And we covered that in a way that I'm really proud of still to this day. It's hard to talk about. I probably am rambling, because I feel like I still kind of go back into this little bit of PTSD talking about it. But it was an awful day in Boston, but I'm so proud of how we rallied to the situation. And it was a wild time to be in news, but an important time, because I think that's when people need news the most, is when the whole world seems chaotic around them and they're just searching for answers. And we provided answers to them through the whole thing.
Were you shocked to see it become a Hollywood movie with Mark Wahlberg starring in it?
Yeah, I actually sat down with Mark Wahlberg to interview him during the press junket. They brought it to Boston, and they showed us. I had a real cathartic moment in it, because there was this one little boy or girl, actually it was a little girl, I think. I couldn't tell in the moment. A police officer was carrying a child, and the child's face was all bloodied, and I couldn't make out whether that child was alive or dead. And that family didn't do much press after, and I didn't push for a lot of these stories after because I was kind of still pretty traumatized from it, unlike a lot of my coworkers who weren't maybe right there at the time when it happened. So I wasn't always seeking out these stories. But I didn't see what had ever happened to that child, and I never knew if that child was okay. Had they been named? Had they, what was their life like now? And in that movie, they show a little bit of what looked like it could have been pulled from that headline. And at the end, the real people were shown, and the child was beautiful, and they were fine. And I had a cathartic, crying moment where I was so happy. And so I told Mark Wahlberg, thank you for having those people at the end, because it really gave me clarity about something I still had not known how that turned out. So for that, I am so thankful. Thank you for doing that. And it was a larger-than-life moment, so I'm not surprised it got turned into a movie. It was a little soon. I remember somebody right after the bombing, hours after the bombing, I saw someone who actually was involved in pageants, but I will leave them nameless, said, wow, how long until they turn this into a movie? And I wrote back, please do not even go there. I got angry because I felt like it was insensitive. But yeah, I'm happy with how he portrayed it. And he's a son of Boston, so he did it with as much understanding and sensitivity as he could. And I think he did a pretty good job showcasing it. Was there one person at every single moment like his character was? No, but it's an, amalgamation of a lot of different characters that, did incredible things over that course of a few days from that to the shootout.
And I'm sure that made your interview with him a little bit different. I mean, it's one thing to interview a celebrity for a movie, but, when the movie is about a situation that you were literally part of, it must have made that a very interesting interview to be involved in. Yeah,
and he could see that I told him that just before our interview started, and, he really took care with the things he was saying. And after he said, thank you so much for telling me that, we've, obviously heard a lot of different sides of how people feel about this movie, and it just meant so much to me that, you got something out of it, which was what we wanted. So that was nice.
Two more things real quick before we kind of wrap up and do our speed round questions. Number one, for those who are competing in the pageant world right now, and I realize it's evolved quite a bit since you competed, but advice to them on competing and just in general, how to tackle it.
Okay, so number one, you can't worry about what everybody else is doing, because a lot of girls get into a pageant and they see all the beautiful girls, all the beautiful dresses, and they start thinking what they're not. You got to go in with blinders on and brainwash yourself that you are the obvious choice. And whatever time, your brain will naturally go there. Every time you see someone, you're like, oh, goodness, that's a good dress. Oh, God, she could be competition. You got to just bring yourself back. Nope, I'm not going to waste my energy on anyone else, because when you start wasting energy on other people, you take it away from yourself. You've entered this pageant because you feel that you have a good chance to win. Remember that and believe in that, and don't falter from that. It's hard to do. It's easy to say, it's hard to do, but just keep reminding yourself, nope, I'm not going to waste my energy on other people. I'm going to stay confident and true to who I am, and I'm going to compete. I prepared, I'm ready, and I'm just going to showcase that to the judges. That's the best mindset you can have while going into a pageant. Secondly, don't try to be whoever you think, Miss State USA or wherever you're competing, or Miss State America. Don't try to be who you think that person should be. Be your best self. I did that at teen. I don't know if I did that at Miss. I think I was trying to be a Miss USA. I wore my hair down, and I tried to pick a dress that was strategic. And I just wish I went in with, I should have, done what I always do, throw my hair in a low ponytail and bend myself. And maybe that would have been enough to maybe first runner-up to Crystal Stewart, because again, that was never happening. But I think when you're authentically you and you make decisions because that's what you love the most, I think that's always going to be more successful than what you think Miss whoever should be. Now, if people are giving you constructive criticism, listen to them too, to take in a lot of information, because you're probably not an expert. But, if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. So make sure you have a good team in place, learn from the best, and then try to follow your gut. That's pretty much it.
Secondly, what do you think the greatest lesson you learned from pageantry that you now use to this day in your life was?
I think it's that if I try really hard to do something, I probably can. Having that idea that there's no goal too large, too big, that if I put my mind to it, I can achieve it, which is really unlocks so many doors.
Do you love game shows, Jackie?
I do like game shows.
All right, so this is kind of like the last round of Family Feud, where he does the little, speed round. You got to answer the questions, and I basically have kind of restructured it just so it's kind of us getting to know you in a fun and unique way. Okay. So 10 questions. You can answer them as fast or slow as you want. It really doesn't matter. I mean, there's no rules here. It's just for us to get to know you. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Number 1. What's the fastest speed you've ever driven a car?
Oh, my goodness. Probably only 80 miles per hour, and then I got nervous and back down. I once had to drive in a race car, and I only went 30 miles per hour. Like, I drove faster at daycare that morning than when I drove in the race car. I'm a wimp.
I love it. Number 2, what do you love more, cake or pie?
Pizza. I'm not a big sweet person.
I'll take option C. That's fine. No problem.
Okay.
Number 3, how many times did you sneeze in the last 7 days? Not that you probably keep track of this.
I don't know. I don't think ever. Might have a sneeze-free week.
That's probably a good thing. No allergies, no big deal.
Yeah, I'm healthy.
All right, number 4, do you like the word dapper?
I do like the word dapper. I think you're dapper, Tim.
Well, that's so sweet of you.
Super fun. Yeah, you did a great job with Miss Teen USA. Tim's her host every year.
Yeah, well, call Mario. Maybe we could do some co-hosting or something, or Brooke Burns.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That'd be
Number
fun.
5, big dogs or small dogs or cats?
Small dogs. I have a little Shih Tzu named Buddy, and I'm obsessed with him. So
definitely a small dog.
But primarily just Shih Tzus.
Number 6, how many hours of sleep do you need a night?
A lot. I like to get my 8 hours of sleep, and I prioritize it. I think of it as a beauty regime. I got to get my sleep in.
So working in the media, what time do you get into work every day?
I have a pretty pushy schedule. I leave by 7:30 because I live pretty far away from the station, but I have to be here from 9 to 5, and then I can kind of move it around based on shoots.
Oh, my God. That's like the perfect, ideal broadcasting schedule.
I'm so spoiled. I have the best job in the station. Don't tell anyone.
I think you do. I know. They're probably really jealous. All right, number 7. Are women complicated?
Oh, yeah. We definitely are, but don't tell us we are. We'll get mad about it.
That's true. I'll leave it at that.
Number 8. And also, it's a good thing that we are, too. It makes us more interesting.
Yes, true. Number 8. How often is it healthy to cry?
Whenever you think it's necessary. I think that if you feel the need for a good cry, there should be no shame in that game. Got to get it out sometimes.
All right, number 9. This is probably the deepest question of the 10. If you could ask God one question, what would it be?
Ooh. Wow.
You can take your time on this one.
Ever. Wow. Just one? Maybe I'd like to ask God if I could get a little time with my great-grandmother who had passed away, or my grandparents on my dad's side. I never got enough time with them, I felt like, so I'd like to see what they think of everything now. I'm sure they'd be pretty proud. I mean, I'm a pretty good mom. I've got a good job, and I'm a good person, so I'm sure they'd be proud, but I'd love to, chat with them, maybe introduce them to my 2 boys. Tim, you're going to make me cry.
I'm sorry. Just a little nostalgic moment there for you, though, but that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool.
I mean, I'd love to be able to see them again.
All right, number 10. Which would you prefer, Sour Patch Kids or Starburst?
Oh, goodness, my 2 faves. Okay, I told you I'm not into sweets, but I do like sour candy. I think I'm going to go with Sour Patch Kids. But can I get the watermelon kind or just the cherry ones? Those are my faves.
I'll see what I can do. I think I can probably pull that off. Well, that is the 10 questions. You're off the hook. Congratulations. Thanks for answering.
I'm glad you didn't ask me about chocolate. I thought it was going to be like Starburst versus chocolate. I'm like, oh, definitely Starburst.
I've always been a huge Starburst fan myself, so that's why I threw it in there. But I just thought that was interesting because I know a lot of people like Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, I just actually posted on Instagram the other day. My photographer had offered me a red Starburst, an orange Starburst, or a yellow Starburst. I was like, well, which one do I choose? Do I be a jerk and take the obviously best one, the red, or do I take a lesser one and not be that happy about my decision? It was a real conundrum. So
I know you've got a very busy schedule today. You've got a shoot to do this afternoon. I really appreciate you spending the time, and thanks for reaching out to me. And it's always great to have on people who are super successful in the broadcasting business as well, because I know a lot of my listeners definitely want to go into that field. So thanks for all the time today.
Oh, my pleasure. And keep up all the fun podcasts. They entertain me on my commute.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying them, and thanks for coming on, and we'll chat soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tim.
Thanks for listening to today's episode and to Jackie Bruno for her time. Now, if you want to follow Jackie's journey, check out her Instagram and Twitter at jbrunonbcboston. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe. You can do so on Spotify, iTunes, the podcast app, Google Play, and YouTube, or you can just go to lifeafterthecrown.com. And for weekly podcast updates, just follow me on Instagram at Tim T. Aldo. Until next time, remember the words of 1 Corinthians 6, verses 19 and 20. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. Talk to you next week, everybody.